is Thursday, and that means it's time for another Throwback Thursday. Joining me is Lori Kent with the Local Loop Podcast.
Good morning.
Good morning. What are we talking about today?
So we're going to head back to Rowena. We went to Rowena last week and kind of talked about their history as a quarry town and just sort of how it became the town that it is now, kind of a town that you just drive through. It's just a small little area a couple miles east of Sioux Falls, but it does have a very interesting claim to fame. So, Rowena, South Dakota is the birthplace of Mamie Van Doren, a Hollywood blonde bombshell of the 60s, which is fascinating. And what's really interesting about it is she is still alive today. So she was born in Rowena, South Dakota in 1931.
Wow.
Her name was Joan Orlander, and she was born to very young parents. You know, her dad worked in the quarry for a while, but she's also born at the height of the Depression. And so, you know, he's going to follow wherever work is. So they're going to be in Sioux City, they're going to be in Rowena again. She's going to live with her grandparents for a while who homesteaded that land. So this is a deep connection to South Dakota. However, at the age of 11, Joan and her family, they moved to California. And her mom had always kind of been starstruck. And that's actually how Joan got her name. She was named after Joan Crawford. And so her mom definitely probably makes this happen, or wishes it into fruition possibly, but she gets her daughter to start doing pageants, and she's naturally beautiful, so this is gonna work out well, you know? And so, you know, part of that whole Hollywood thing is that makeover, right? So they're gonna dye her hair, and they're gonna dye it that platinum blonde, and then they're gonna change her name, and they change it to Mamie Van Doren. The Mamie is for the first lady at the time, which, you know, it's kind of an older name, so it's kind of surprising that they're like, we want a bombshell name. I'm thinking first lady. Like, it's kind of an odd whatever, but it works. And so she becomes part of what is called the 3 M's: Marilyn Monroe, Mamie Van Doren, and then Jane Mansfield. And so what's interesting about that is those women, of them, only one of them makes it out of the 60s. The other 2 die tragically. However, their deaths also elevate them to this icon status. That kind of thing that happens when people die young, right? And I feel like that's the only reason that Mamie Van Doren is not a household name that is rolling out of everybody's lips, is because she is still alive. She made it out alive. But so once she gets to Hollywood, she wins some pageants, she catches the eye of Howard Hughes, and she gets some roles with RKO, she gets other pictures. She ends up doing, I believe, about 50 films, which is amazing. She's great at it. However, they're never gonna give her anything to really flex those acting skills. They really lean in real heavy on the blonde bombshell thing. And, you know, she makes a career out of it. However, after the death of Marilyn Monroe, after the death of Jane Mansfield, both very tragic, I think that helps her shift her thought process and what she wants to do with her life. She ends up going and doing a couple tours for the USO in Vietnam. And she is obviously exactly what those men needed, just a godsend for them. And she spends a lot of time over there, and that just makes her shift her thought process and her lifestyle away from Hollywood and just dedicating more of her life to living her life and the way that she wants to, as opposed to being in that blonde bombshell box. Now, she is still a blonde bombshell at 94 years old. She still is writing books, she is still giving interviews, and she still talks about being from Rowena, South Dakota.
Wow.
So who would have thought? Had you ever heard of Mamie Van Doren?
I have heard the name, actually.
Yes,
I've heard of the name, but I had no idea from South Dakota.
Yes,
no
it all
idea
connects.
all of the background. Where's she at now? Is she
She is in California, yeah.
She stayed in California.
I mean, fair.
They kept her. Well,
fair.
Can't blame her too much.
No, I can't. But yeah, it's a fantastic story, and I love that she hails from and continues to talk about being from Rowena, South Dakota.
Even one of those clips, it was like South Dakota's gift to Hollywood, and I love that. It's so cool to see that.
I agree. Yeah.
So interesting. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
And stick around. We have more after the break.